Welcome to another live edition of the Play College Sports Talk Show. And man, somebody check the hot sign because it is time for a fresh episode. And we are here, one half of the dynamic duo, Stephen Boss, joined as always by my co-host, the one and the only.
You already know it's Cool McCain. You know it's Friday night. You know it's time to get busy.
Oh yeah, always, man. So, bro, it's a lot going on right now. MLB just started back up, and I think it's a little early for us to really get into MLB conversations. If you got anything you want to throw in there tonight, feel free to. But we'll definitely be touching on that as things get going. We will be covering obviously the Final Four, maybe talking a little bit about some of those previous rounds. Got some NBA, some NFL stuff going on, so lots to talk about, man. And of course, a couple other stories, which I'm going to go ahead and just lead us off with one story that I know that somebody has. And I know that people are just now logging in, people are just getting on. They might be catching this on the replay. So if you were not here last week, here is your warning before I pass it over to my co host.
This is the part of the show that becomes Super Homer. Just so we're clear on that. You know, very unfortunate thing happened for those of us in the Carolina basketball family. The greatest, or at least one of the two greatest coaches in the history of the North Carolina program, 903 wins, 3 championships, 9 Final Fours. Called it quits. And that would be Roy Williams. It's a very tough thing for a lot of people to digest because we didn't really see it coming. I think it's something that he came to terms with from listening to his press conference probably a year ago, honestly. The landscape of college basketball has changed. Now guys can transfer, without even having to sit out for a year. There's not a lot of loyalty left in college basketball. I read an article. I've read several articles, but I read one that I guess it couldn't necessarily confirm, but it said one of the big things that really just kind of got Roy to the point where it said, it may be time to go was Walker Kessler. Essentially, what Walker Kessler did was decide to transfer after his first year. And from what Tyler Hansborough has said and the comments from Roy Williams, as well as other comments, it sounds as if his problem or his dad's problem or the combination of those two was his playing time this past season and that he was not being guaranteed anything for next year. He was a highly recruited kid coming out of high school. And, he did play well when given the opportunity. But if you look at the backcourt North Carolina had last year, you had Garrison Brooks, you had Armando Bacot, and then you had Day'Ron Sharp. Walker Kessler, you're not a better player than either of those three guys. You had some games where you were better than Garrison Brooks, but you were not a better player than Garrison Brooks. So honestly, you deserve to be in the position that you were in for last year. The thing about Carolina, the thing about quality programs is you don't come in and start from day one. Unless you're at a position of need. Like, for instance, Carolina's backcourt has been a little weak, so they had to bring in some freshmen, and they were able to start. But normally, when you're a freshman, you sit under Roy. And he's been there for 18 years. So this is something that's an institution there, and it's an expectation, and it's something you should have realized when you made the commitment to Carolina. So for you, very disappointed in you making a decision after your freshman year. But hey, it just shows us that you were the guy that wasn't invested in the program. And when you come to Carolina, you're invested in the program. If not, just go. So actually, I'm happy that you're leaving. That opens up a spot for someone who wants to be there. If you didn't want to be there, good riddance. As far as Day'Ron Sharp, he left to go to the NBA. That's a good move for him. I anticipate him doing that. I said that on the show about midway through the season. There was no way he was coming back for a second year. He couldn't raise the stock anymore by coming back. A couple of guys graduated. A lot of the other guys, at least so far, are coming back. The commits are staying so far. But the thing about Roy is he loved all his players, man. This guy, the whole press conference, he's just bringing up names of different players, different coaches that coached under him. He talked about the late great Dean Smith. I don't know how many times, and you could see just looking at his face, just hearing him talk, how emotional it was for him. And as a fan, man, I got a little misty eyed. It's a tough situation when you see a guy that is like I mean, I don't know any other way to put it, like a guy that should be on the Mount Rushmore of college basketball coaches. Over 900 wins, quickest to ever do it. You know, and you see him basically say, "I don't think I could was the right guy for Carolina anymore. So I'm retiring. I'm not going to coach anybody else. If I can't coach my own kids here at Carolina, I'm not going anywhere else. I'm retiring." A lot of things were said. We don't have time in an hour show to get into all of them. But what I can say is a lot of people that are fans of North Carolina have complained about Roy for the last 5 years. I want to let you guys know you got your wish. Be careful what you wish for, because last time, Bill Guthridge, Matt Doherty, do those names ring bells for you? When you lose an icon, it's not that easy to replace them. So now a lot of teams in the ACC are going to benefit from us not having that man on our sideline. The next hire is going to be very important for the organization. I'm a Carolina fan. I can talk about Roy Williams all day. I'm going to let my co-host drop a few words here, and then, of course, I have more.
So before I jump into my thoughts, I see that Brian Brady has joined us. He says he's tired. He's going to go to sleep here shortly. He says, "Stop being hard on Roy. He gave you 4 less rings than Brady has, but that's good."
I haven't been hard on Roy at all. I think you must be really tired, Mr. Brian Brady.
Brian Brady is not the goat of listening.
Definitely not.
What's up, Rob? We just messing with you, man. Hey, Rob, man, I just want to say real quick, why did y'all even bother beating Florida State if you was just gonna turn around and blow it the next round? What's even the point, man?
It's not Rob. That's Dwight.
Oh, Dwight, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they all like these sorry teams, man. I can't keep up with who like which sorry team. So Rob knows what's up. Rob knows what's up. But yeah, man. The funny thing is, I see a lot of similarities to what I watched Florida State go through with Bobby Bowden. And I'm glad that at least Roy got to go out on his terms, because I know a lot of people were upset with the way that Bobby was kind of pushed out the door and he didn't really get a chance to leave on his own terms. So I'm at least glad that Roy got that opportunity, because you're right. He's a dude who deserves to be up there on the Mount Rushmore for college basketball. He deserved the right to be able to go out the way that he saw fit. And I know as a Carolina fan, it probably hurts you and you recognize how difficult it's going to be to replace him, but he did what he felt like was best. And in all honesty, if Roy felt like he was no longer able to go out there and get through to these kids and help them to reach the level that he once was able to help them to, he made the right decision.
Yeah, man, you think about it. This is a guy who started coaching back when Dean Smith was a coach. He was an assistant at Carolina for 10 years before he even went to Kansas. So you think about 33 years as a head coach, then 10 years as an assistant before that. So we're now getting to an era where kids are able to start next year, I think, make money off their likenesses. You're able to get a one-time waiver to transfer without having to sit out a year. So many things are changing that you're kind of pushing the guys that really just love the sport out. And Roy, he made it really clear, man. He always just wanted to be a coach. That was his thing. And, I think it's great for anybody to be able to, in their lifetime, achieve just being what they want to be. And he was able to do that. So, that's a positive thing. But, like I said, I could sit here for an hour talk about how great Roy was and how, I respect the fact this was something that he put out at his retirement press conference that a lot of people may not know. So we approached Roy in 2000 and asked him to come coach. He declined. So then after Darty in his horrible seasons got fired, we went back to Roy. He came. So the reason he didn't come in 2000 was he had some kids that he promised them that he would not leave while they were at Kansas. They graduated between 2000 and 2003. So that's why in 2003, when we went back, he agreed to come. So that says a lot that a guy would turn down his alma mater, the school that he loves more than any other college, to stay because he promised his kids he would. And that's the kind of coach you're losing. And you can get another guy in there and he could be great, but he won't be Roy Williams. And Roy Williams himself said he's not Dean Smith. So as the years go on, man, you have to replace coaches, but this is going to be our fifth coach in 60 years.
Yeah.
So you just think about how long most hires, and this is including Guthridge and Daugherty, who were there only a couple of years. So just, this is a job that I think needs to go to someone inside the Carolina family. I hope Roy has a lot of influence on who is going to replace him. A couple of names that I think should have a chance. One is outside of the program, is Brad Stevens. A couple of guys that actually are from the program, guys like King Rice, Hubert Davis, who is an assistant on the team now, has been there about 9 years. Jerry Stackhouse, coach at Vanderbilt. He has coaching credentials from assistant in the NBA, head coach in the G League, and of course now at Vanderbilt. Wes Miller, who played for Roy for a few years when he transferred in. He's been the coach at UNC Greensboro, I think, for the last 9 or 10 years. And of course, King Rice, he's been coaching and doing a good job as well. So these are some guys from that lineage that I think would make a lot of sense to bring in. And, you've got to move on. I know it's soon. I've seen a lot of, Tar Heel fans, Tar Heel groups, where people are just devastated. But at the end of the day, he did what was best for him. He knew it was time for him to move on. So it's time for the team to, take the time, vet the proper candidate. And remember, you have a lot of kids that are deciding whether they're going to stay or not, and kids that may be interested in coming. So we got to make the right hire to replace Roy. And those are some guys that I think would fill, that void really well.
So out of those guys, man, do you have a preference as a Carolina fan?
So my preference would be Hubert Davis.
Okay.
Hubert played there. He's been an assistant there. He's worked right under Roy. And I think he's a guy that if he works out, he can be there another 20, 25 years. And I think he would be the guy. He's great as a recruiter. He understands all the levels of being a coach. He's bought a lot of those strong recruits in the last few years. Some of them have worked out, some of them haven't, but he's had a hand in getting a lot of those guys there. So if you take that guy, you elevate him and give him the opportunity, I think you have a smoother transition. If that's the route I think they're going to go, I don't know. But if I could pick one guy, that would be my guy.
Okay. And by the way, man, Rob actually is a Michigan fan.
Rob is supposed to be a Georgetown fan. I just want to go ahead and put that out there. That's what he's told me.
Well, he said my Wolverines, man,
So I'm just saying, I don't know how many teams he has, but I know he's a Georgetown fan. So all I'm saying is, I can't be responsible for knowing that you cheer for 5 teams.
He calls himself Ron Brady.
Hey.
So right there, he's already cheered for at least about 6 basketball teams
and 2 football teams.
Yeah. He also said he likes Wes Miller.
Okay, that's not a bad pick. I think it's more of like what you would call a sexy pick. It's the guy that it's like, oh, he's been coaching and he came and he's been at UNCG and he's been over 20 wins the last 4 or 5 years. And I think that would be great. But let's not pretend ourselves. The Southern Conference is not the ACC. And I'm not saying that he can't do a great job, but I'm saying let's not pretend that those are equal.
Yeah, I think something that people oftentimes overlook is when you had a guy that's coaching at a small school, when he gets up to a major program, there's kind of this assumption of, he did a great job recruiting, No, more than likely, what he did was a great job of recruiting lower tier guys and then coaching them up and developing them. When you
Shaka
come to a
Smart.
school like Carolina, you don't get 4 years to develop a guy. You have to go out and recruit the top talent. And if your sales pitch is normally to one, two, maybe 3 star guys, and now all of a sudden you're pitching to 4 and 5 stars and you're competing with other people who know how to pitch to 4 and 5 stars, that's a whole new ball game. That's a whole new skill set.
Shaka Smart. All I'm saying.
Yeah, it happens. I mean, perfect example of it, really, because he's a good coach. We all knew that he was a good coach and that he could be successful going to a bigger program, but he just never got it. He didn't have the
Yep.
skills that he needed.
Oh yeah. I see Rob said he had the whole Fab Five jersey. Rob, I'll tell you a little secret, man. Name a kid in America that didn't have at least one of those 5 players jerseys back in the day. Doesn't mean you become a Michigan fan. You know, if that's what you want to do, hey, that's you. But I'm saying, I had a Chris Webber jersey. You know what I'm saying? I had a Michigan Chris Webber jersey. I had the black socks. You know what I'm saying? I couldn't get anybody to buy me the shorts too. But I'm just saying, I'm still a Carolina fan. I just, really like the Fab Five.
I'm just in here thinking like LeBron, Tom Brady, Fab Five. Seeing a pattern, man. Seeing a pattern.
Cowboys.
Yeah, I'm seeing a bit of a pattern, man. You're a Yankees fan too, Rob?
But yeah, man, it's a lot more that could be said, but we have a lot of other things to get to. And again, we only have an hour with you guys. So, we're going to have to move on. So, we'll roll with that. But, so another interesting thing that happened this week was Kevin Durant. So Kevin Durant had a little bit of an exchange with Michael Rappaport. Won't go into the details too much, but other than to say there was some threatening DMs that were sent. Just want to say 2 teams again. But there were some things that were said in the DMs. So Michael Rappaport, being the coward that he has shown himself to be, decided to make those DM posts available for everyone to see. So me, I'm a person that believes if I'm reaching out to you in a DM, right? That's a DM conversation. Whatever it is, should not really be placed out for everyone to read. But the coward Michael Rappaport did that. Some of the things that Kevin Durant said ended up getting him suspended. But at the end of the day, Michael Rappaport, I guess the whole purpose, the only thing I can guess, was to try to discredit Kevin Durant. But what you failed to realize was Kevin Durant has already discredited himself with burner accounts and so many other things that this did nothing to affect Kevin Durant. You accomplished nothing. You just showed yourself to be a snitch, a dude that if you have a conversation with, he might record it. If it's through any type of media, he's going to save it. And then if he wants to put it out there, he's going to put it out there. I don't know about anyone else, but my opinion is what you said, Durant, was wrong. But Michael Rappaport, to me, you're way wronger because you put information that was not out to the public for the public, and it did not serve the purpose that you expected. All he got was a fine. And the best thing about it was the press conference. Kevin Durant basically said, I apologize that what I said got out. Never once apologized for saying it. And you know what? Honestly, whether you agree with the comments or not, whether you agree with the tone he took, whether you agree with any of that, we live in a country where it's this crazy thing called freedom of speech, right? So when it works for us, we want to accept it. But when somebody says something that we don't like, or says something that, to someone else that we don't want them to say, then all of a sudden it's a problem. So here's the thing, man. Durant, you shouldn't have said those things. Rappaport, you had no reason to put him out there. And your stated your reason, your only obvious reason, ain't work. So guess what? You come out looking worse than Durant. And that, my friend, is hard to do. Congratulations.
So while you were kind of recapping that, I hadn't had a chance to look into it yet. So I actually went and looked up the actual conversation. I'm just gonna say this. I think me and you had a more offensive conversation with each other last week, talking about the NFL draft. I'm
Well, I'll
like,
say
this
this.
this is nothing. Like,
Well, man, certain people, man, if you say anything that could be threatening, man, all of a sudden, you know, their their life is over. And Michael Rappaport seems to be one of those people, man. So, like I said, all it does
I
to
mean,
me is make me look at him differently. You're a coward.
I mean, here's the thing, man. On one hand, I'm going to go ahead and put out that for Kevin Durant, you honestly should not have any expectation in this day and age. Anything you put in writing is not going to get put out there. Like I've worked under the assumption for years that anything I say to somebody in writing might get brought up and used against me later on, right?
Absolutely.
So that's been a long standing thing, at least from our generation. If you got something to say, you don't put it in writing, you go sit to somebody's face. But I will also say this, even though Kevin Durant shouldn't have said these things because he should have known there was also a possibility it could have came out. At the end of the day, this was a conversation between you and somebody else. One, which was initiated by you making a negative comment towards Kevin Durant yourself. Now, if Kevin Durant just up and started sending you DMs out of the blue, completely unprovoked, no reason whatsoever, and you want to be like, yo, this dude is a jerk. Like, you guys really think this guy's a good guy? No, this is what he does. Now, I might give you a little bit of a slack here, right? But you came popping off of the mouth first. Talk about some Kevin Durant sensitive, and then your sensitive self over there posting the man DMs. Like, don't be calling people sensitive and then turn around and snitching on it because they got you up in your feelings. That's all I'm
So
gonna say on that, man.
you know what that makes Michael Rappaport?
What's that?
Ralph Tresvant.
Oh man. What up, Dwight?
Dwight has arrived.
But yeah, man, I'm like, bro, like that conversation really was good, all that crucial, to be honest, man.
It wasn't, man. But I'm just saying, you put the stuff out there like you was trying to make something big happen. It didn't.
Yeah.
No, man. Switch things up a little bit. So we know the women's Final Four is going on right now. For those who are following, and I hope you are, because the women are putting on a very good show for us as well. South Carolina lost by 1 to Stanford. They had a buzzer beater. They had a good shot, and it just didn't go in. So they lost by 1. It actually was like a layup, but just, a little bit too hard. So they ended up losing by 1 to Stanford. Don Staley's really turned around that South Carolina women's program. Big ups to them. Hate that they lost, but everyone can't win. So Stanford's in the championship game. They're going to be playing the winners of the next game. And that's going to be Arizona and UConn. So before we talk about Arizona and UConn, we have to talk about the fact that UConn should not be here. Yep. UConn basically fouled a player from I can't remember the name of the team. We were just talking about it a minute ago. Who they played in the Elite Eight. Baylor. I think it was Baylor. Yeah. So the Baylor girl gets the ball. She gets fouled when driving in. She gets fouled while going into her move to shoot. She gets fouled twice while shooting. No fouls called. I know we talk about the refs swallowing the whistles at the end of the game, but when you have and I'm going to use a Stephen A. Smith word here, and I don't use those much often, when you have an egregious foul, multiple ones, you can look at the steals from different angles and see how many times this young lady was fouled, and there was no call. You know, I'm even of the opinion if it's just one foul, like driving in, okay, but she got fouled. I saw at least 3 to 4 times. One of those fouls should have been called. And then on the no call on the shot, the girl does not go straight up. She's coming in. The girl goes to stop her shot.
Right.
That's foul. You
Yep.
know, like UConn, you have a chance to win a national championship because the refs did not do their job. And like I said, I'm not one of those people that, oh, the call should come down to the refs. But in those situations, you have to make a call. That's an important part of the game. You at least have to allow her the opportunity to go to the free throw line and see if she can make 2 shots because she was fouled.
Yep.
You know, so very disappointed in that call or no call. Happy for UConn because, you know, they are a good team. But at the end of the day, you should have at least been in. I can't say you would have lost the game because I don't know what she would have done at the free throw line, but she should have had free throws.
Yeah. I mean, you know, man, we've had this conversation a couple times in different sports, different scenarios, and it always comes down to the same. I hate this idea that you're going to call the game differently in the second quarter or in the example of college basketball in the first half than what you're going to call it in the last 30 seconds of the game.
Right.
The game should be called consistently. If you want to swallow your whistles from the beginning and you're swallowing the whistle equally for both teams, cool. But don't decide you're going to get to the end of the game and then suddenly call it different. To me, that just it's not how it should be because players don't have an expectation. So if I'm playing on defense and you haven't been calling fouls on me the whole game, and I go up and foul somebody, you call a foul on me on the last play of the game, I'm gonna be heated because I'm like, you've been letting me do this all game, and you ain't been no foul. But at the same time, if I'm an offensive player and every time I put my head down and I drive and contact gets made, I get a foul call, and now all of a sudden I'm not getting that same foul call. Or if every time if I get hit going up to shoot, it's a foul, and then now magically it's not, I'm gonna be heated. So yeah, that's my issue. My issue isn't so much about whether they missed the call or not, because you know what, missed calls happen. Now I do find it really hard to believe that nobody had a good angle of any of the multiple fouls on that play. But, you know, missed calls happen. That's part of the game. This clearly was not just a case of a missed call, though. This was a deliberate, intentional decision to not call the foul.
UConn boosters must have more money.
Let me get some of that UConn money.
You know what I'm saying? You know, and UConn gets to go up against Arizona. Arizona's a good team. Don't get me wrong. But I don't foresee them beating UConn. Let's be honest. We know in most situations where you have that one game that you should lose and then you win it, that's it. It's a wrap. You're not losing no more. You focus at that point. So I think UConn's going to get to the championship game. Stanford got lucky to even win to be there. So we're going to see how this matchup between, I think, UConn and Stanford is going to play out. That's going to be a good game to watch. And I'll tell you this, if you have not been watching women's college basketball, UConn and Arizona is going to be a good game. Whoever's in their national championship game is going to be a good game. I advise you, I urge you, pick up your remote, go to ESPN Family Networks, figure out what they're playing, and watch.
I'm going to take you one step further. For all the people who post, and if you're not one of these people, but you see people do this, you see people posting about how women athletes don't get paid enough in comparison to men. Is what you tell those people, or is what you tell yourself? Stop complaining about it and tune in and get the ratings for these women's sports up, because they're never going to get equal pay. And when I say equal, I don't mean they're going to, WNBA players are never going to make what NBA players make, right? It's just not going to happen.
Unless something amazing happens that we
because
have no clue
it's
right
a different,
now.
Yeah. I mean, you're talking stratosphere's difference in terms of revenue generated.
Hmm.
but they should be able to get a much higher percentage of what their league brings in. But in order for that to happen, the league has to make more money. The way the league makes more money is to get more eyeballs. So start watching women's college basketball. Start watching the WNBA. Watch these women's sports. Don't just complain about it. Be part of the solution. Support these ladies.
Oh, and by the way, April 15th is the WNBA draft, and the season coming up is going to be the 25th season of the WNBA. So 25 years we've had the WNBA. Draft is coming up. Um, we'll talk a little bit about that. We'll go over the draft positions, some of the top players next week before the draft. But when I tell you, we sit here, we talk about all these different groups, and people like my co-host said, talk about equality and your voice for women's sports. Then you know what? Like you said, turn on your TV,
Out of
watch,
jerseys.
buy the jerseys instead of going and buying LeBron. Buy Candace Parker, right? Alina Deladova. Different players from the WNBA buy their jerseys, right?
Mhm.
Watch those games. When you're planning to go and watch sporting events, watch it. Go watch a WNBA game. Go live to those games when we're able to do that again. That's the thing. We always want to talk, but let's do some action. Let's
Yep.
help the women. Let's watch their sport. Let's make their sports more mainstream. And that's something that really needs to happen in order for what people say they want to happen to happen. The
Yep.
women are not asking for equal pay dollar for dollar. What they're saying is the NBA, for example, and these are not the exact numbers. So these are numbers I'm throwing out. Let's just say the NBA gets 60% of the profits, right? Split them among the players. And let's say the WNBA, they get 20%. And this is obviously not the actual numbers, but for example, what the WNBA wants is to have that same percentage that the NBA
Mhm.
has. So that's not going to get the same dollars because, as we said, the revenue is probably never going to be close
Right.
or no time soon. But if they're getting the same percentage, then that's considered equal pay, right? If I
Right.
do a job and I get paid 10% of what I make, and someone else does another job and they get paid 10% of what they make, as long as we're both getting paid 10%, I may not be happy with my dollars. They may not be happy with theirs, whoever's making less, but you're getting equal percentage. And that's the thing. That's the key.
Yeah, and let's also think about this too. Let's say even if the percentage doesn't go up, let's say that we'll just use the 20% number here. So let's say that the WNBA does, I don't know, like we'll just say like $5 million in revenue or something, right?
Hmm.
So if all of a sudden people started tuning to the game, they were able to get more advertising dollars, they were able to get better TV deals, they started getting more merchandise sales. Let's
More
say they doubled
teams.
that number. So let's say they doubled that number.
Right.
Well, guess what? That means that 20% that the women were getting is now 20% of twice as much money. They basically just doubled what they can actually make.
Right.
So that's why we're sitting here telling you it's not just about saying you want equality for them and you want them to get equal percentage. It's about making that percentage actually mean something. It's about having that percentage actually mean more. And you do that by supporting them so that the advertising dollars can be there, so that the viewership can be there, so that the merchandise sales can be there.
Last thing I'm gonna say on it. I went last weekend um, to a AU tournament for girls. Right. There were like 20 some teams playing. All these teams are filled with girls who have aspirations of playing, college basketball. At least, probably, WNBA at this point, right? Because these were all, you know, high school girls. If those girls' parents are taking them to WNBA games, if they're buying in their favorite WNBA players game jersey versus their favorite NBA players jersey, if they're introducing them to the game, to the WNBA, they're going to watch it, right? Because what do we always talk about with people in positions? You want somebody that looks like you. LeBron doesn't look like a female. Kyrie doesn't look like a female. James Harden doesn't look like a female. Kevin Durant, So what I'm saying is start to give your kids, if you have daughters, nieces, little cousins, grandkids, they're females that are into sports, start giving them role models that look like them. That's how you spread the game. That's how you introduce them to. That's how you get them involved in it. That's how you get them interested and show some real interest yourself as well. That's what we need to start doing.
Yo, for sure. And that's what it comes down to, man. So with that said, man, we do have to talk about the men's Final Four too, which is hasn't started yet, but we know who the matchups are going to be.
Oh yeah.
So which one of the two matchups in the Final Four right now are you most looking forward to?
Well, I'm going to say this. I'm not looking forward to Gonzaga's game because I don't believe Gonzaga can be beat. I believe there's a team in the tournament that can beat Gonzaga.
So you don't believe there is one?
No, I don't.
I I'm going to have to agree with you there. That's who I'm picking to win it all, no matter what here, because they had one game in which they looked like they struggled a little bit, and they really weren't even in danger of losing it. So to have a team, I mean, they're beating people on average by what, like 15 points?
They are. So here's the thing. They're playing UCLA, right?
Yeah. Who's having quite the
UCLA,
Cinderella season.
amazing. I'm not saying that it's impossible for UCLA to beat Gonzaga, but what I'm saying is it's going to be very difficult for them to do. It's not something that I'm anticipating happening. If it does happen, it would definitely be an upset, one of epic proportions. But I'm not going to completely say UCLA can't win because they're there. You know, the
So
better.
so more likely, just a question for you now, more likely to happen. UCLA beats Gonzaga, or Michael Rapport gets invited to Kevin Durant's house for Christmas.
Oh, UCLA beats Gonzaga
I just wanted to put it on
by
special
far,
for people. Yeah, I just want to put it on special for people.
by far, by far. But the other matchup is actually going to be a really good game, I think, between Baylor and Houston. Houston did something in the Sweet 16 and the Elite Eight that I truthfully didn't think they were going to be able to do. My mistake, Houston. Your defense is atrocious in a good way. It's just nasty. You get after the guards. You have bigs that can handle their own business so that your guards are allowed to switch, to swoop, and to attack. I actually think they're going to beat Baylor. I think we're going to see Houston and Gonzaga in the national championship game. I think Houston's going to be able to make a game of it with the way that they play, but I don't see them being able to beat Gonzaga. Caveat: if anyone can do it, and you said this, I think in the field of 32, that would probably be Houston based on their defense. So I think you were right. I didn't quite see it yet, but I think you were right.
Yeah, I mean, Houston defense is just it's ridiculous, man. I mean, when you look at them play, there's a lot of weaknesses that they have, to be honest, on the court. And most of them revolve around the offense. But their hustle, their determination, and the way they play defense because of those two things makes them a very, very hard out. Now, is it possible that they just have an ice cold shooting night and end up losing a close game against Baylor? Yeah, that could happen. I wouldn't be surprised by that, honestly. The problem I think would happen if they do make it to the finals against Gonzaga is that you might slow Gonzaga down, but you don't have the offensive firepower to hang with them. So I think it's gonna come down to that's gonna be one of those things that no matter how great their defense is playing, they don't have the overall talent to actually win the whole thing.
But see, here's the funny part about that. And, opinions are opinions. I'm not here to disprove your opinion. I don't think Gonzaga is a very athletic team. I think they're just able to get it done as a unit. The most important thing about the tournament is you being a great team together. Houston doesn't have the scoring punch that some other teams have, but that defense is the closest thing we've seen to the 40 Minutes of Hell Arkansas defense from back in the day in a long time. So here's the thing. They're going to get after you on defense. And one of the things when you really get after someone on one side of the court, you normally aren't as good on the other side. If you look at the really great defensive teams in college basketball, they don't put up a lot of points. Why? Because they exert a lot of energy and a lot of effort on that other end of the court. Because they know if I allow you to go down there and score all you want and I try to come back and one up you, it's not going to happen. It's not going to work. And we're going to lose. But if I get in you, if I dog you, if I beat those dogs for that full 40 minutes, we got a chance to win. We got a chance to win. What did they beat Michigan? I mean, UCLA beat Michigan. It's another team that did it. You say beat Michigan, what? 51-49 by 2 points. Houston won 67-61 over Oregon State. So that's what I'm saying. You're looking at teams who are coming out. They're not coming out here to try to, let you score 70, 80 points. They're coming out here to try to keep you in the 50s, low 60s. A point differential or a point area where they can be at. Once you get above about 65, you start to get into a differential with those teams, meaning it's going to be harder for them to put up those points. So Gonzaga, if this game were to happen, of course, Gonzaga's goal would be, obviously, to keep the game in the 70 to 80s. Houston's objective would be to keep that game in the high 50s, low 60s. That gives them the best opportunity to win. Now, here's the thing. We're talking about the championship game. Still got to backtrack. Houston has to get over Baylor. I think they will. But again, Houston hasn't had a blowout in the tournament, and I don't think this would be one either. But I think, again, when you need a stop, they're going to be the ones that are going to be able to get a stop. A lot of college basketball teams, especially now, their forte is scoring. When you take that away from them, when you make that harder for them, they don't have an answer. So maybe I'm wrong with Baylor. It would be the first time in this round. It wouldn't be the first time in this tournament. But I believe Houston's going to be the one to get to the championship game.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just say like this. For me, when I look at it, I feel like the thing that Houston does really well with their defense is they basically suffocate you.
Mm-hmm.
And it really comes down to, can you stay composed? Can you hit shots from outside that are going to open up opportunities for you to get the ball inside? Because here's the thing. Houston's defense is not just going to let you just stroll to the basket.
Mm-hmm.
You are going to have to consistently knock down long twos and threes in order to create any kind of spacing in that defense to be able to get the ball inside on a consistent basis. That's what makes their defense so great, because they're basically banking on the fact that you're not going to consistently be able to hit long twos and threes. And if we're being completely honest, in college basketball, that's a great strategy, because there's not a lot of great shooting teams in college basketball that are going to consistently hit them long shots like that throughout the course of an entire game. And then people, when they start missing, they get frustrated. And of course, hey, you know what happens when you play a good defense? You get a couple turnovers, leads to breakaways. Breakaways are easy buckets.
Easiest buckets you can get.
Yep. It's almost like somebody once said that defense wins championships.
I might have heard that before.
Yeah.
Might have heard that.
I don't think they're going to win a championship this year, but, people still say it.
Yeah, and I think it's going to help them get there, though.
And definitely help them. Yeah.
Now, got to talk about the NBA. Right. So as we sit here now, in a tie, thanks to being 3-0 this week, and you can go ahead and put the Homer Alert sign up there, sir. And thanks to being a tie,
they're going to get out.
Technically, Denver has now moved up to the 4th spot because they have a tiebreaker over the Lakers. So we took a team that was early in the year down at 7th and 8th. They've been able to get up to that 4 or 5 because it's a tie as of now. mark. What's great about that is I watched the Nuggets this week, right? I don't live in Denver area, so I had to go on and make some effort to see the games. Make that effort to see all the games because what I wanted to be able to say was what I'm able to say right now. This is weird to say, but I see Aaron Gordon playing with joy. What I mean by that, he's smiling, high fiving teammates. He's having a ball playing on this Denver team.
Mhm.
And he fits perfectly because he's not a selfish player, but he will score when needed. He will rebound. He defends the toughest guys on the other team, and he puts in needed buckets. He takes pressure off. If you're a defense, you're looking at him and you're thinking he's more of a threat than a Michael Porter Jr. In different points in the game, even more of a threat than Jokic. So you have to spend some effort focusing on him. So when you put him out with Jokic, with Will Barton, with Jamal Murray, and with Michael Porter Jr., what you have is you have five teams. Absolutely, Tony Robinson, great pickup. You have five guys out there, and four of those guys you have to pay a lot of attention to. So who's benefiting the most from this? That's going to be Will Barton. Will Barton's going off, and that's because he's getting less attention. You can't pay attention to five guys. It's impossible. I mean, you're not just allowing him to do whatever, but you have other guys that you need to focus on. So it's allowing him to be able to kind of do his thing, and there's no way to stop it. There is a big concern with the same team. We saw it last night. I saw it in all three games this week. Double-digit 20-point leads being erased or getting down to like 2-3 points. You're not going to be able to do that in the playoffs unless you're going to be on the opposite end of what happened last year. But it's something that needs to be cleaned up. I think they'll clean it up as the season goes on. So they've been really strong, and I only anticipate them getting stronger. I believe they're going to be able to move up into the top three teams by the end of the year. McGee hasn't played yet, so we essentially playing a version of small ball when Jokic is not in the game as of right now. It's still working, but McGee, he'll help that second unit with what he brings to the table. So excited about that. I'm actually also excited to see what's going to happen with a couple of teams lower down. So right now, the Warriors are in 10th place, right? So they're in that playing game range. The Spurs are in 8th. And the Trailblazers are in 6th. I'm highlighting those three teams because those are three teams that I expect to strengthen their position by the end of the year. I expect the Warriors by the end of the season to get into the top 8.
Okay.
I don't think they're going to be able to get to 6, which is going to keep them out of the is going to keep them in that playoff. So the way that'll work, I know we've talked about it before, but I see a couple of people that may not have been on that week. So I'll just quickly explain it, then I'll let you talk, sir. You basically have your 7th and 8th seed are going to play a game. The winner of that is a 7th seed. They're in the playoffs. You're going to have the 9th and 10th seed play one game. The loser of that is out. The winner plays the 8th seed in one game. The winner's in, the loser's out. So you could essentially end up being a 7th seed if you were 7th or 8th, or you could end up out of the playoffs altogether. 9-10, you have to win 2 games. So you want to be 6 because you want to not get into that. But when I look at the West, it's going to be hard. But I think you're going to see the Clippers slide down to 4th. I think Jazz and the Suns can stay where they're at. I think you're going to see the Lakers obviously move down. The losses are going to come because they don't have LeBron and AD for a couple more weeks. When they get them back, I think you'll start to see them rise a little bit. I think Portland's going to capitalize on that. They're going to slide themselves up to the 5th spot. Then the question is going to be who's going to get that 6th spot. It's going to be Dallas. Is it going to be the Lakers? Is it going to be the Spurs? Is it going to be the Grizzlies? Is it going to be the Warriors? And the crazy thing is, from 7th through 11th, right? So
Mhm.
from the Mavericks all the way down to the Kings, and you actually can even include the Pelicans, you're only talking about 4.5 games.
Yeah.
Excuse me, separating those teams.
Yeah, which I mean, really what that says is you definitely do not want to be in that 7th through 10th position,
Mm-mm.
because if you get into a play-in situation there, you really don't have any guarantees you're gonna win. Those are all going to be competitive games.
Playoffs
So
will start early for you.
yeah, so that's something that you know people are going to have to really kind of be aware of this year. By the way, I would just add for the Lakers that they seem to be going through what my Niners went through last year, because they get Andre Drummond, he goes out and plays 17 minutes, and he gets hurt.
Well, it's just a toenail. He should be all right.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, just like, man, can't catch a break with these injuries.
I mean, you should have played him over 20 minutes probably anyway. So
We only played him 17, man. We thought we had 3 minutes left.
probably should have played about 15 anyway, to be honest. But
But yeah, I mean,
same.
when you look at the playoffs this year, I think it's going to be interesting, because it's not just going to be the normal, like, okay, who's the top eight. I mean, and look, I know a lot of people are not fans of this whole play-in thing. If they get stupid, they don't want to deal with it. They feel like, if you're the 10th seed, you should just get left out, which is funny because these are the same people that think we should have at least 6 to 8 games for the college football playoffs.
Doesn't quite match up.
Right. They want the number 8 seed in college football to get a chance, but not the 10th seed in the NBA. Who
Oh,
knows?
of course not. Of course not.
But
Now,
I like it for the fact that it actually makes those top 6 spots a lot more important than what they've ever been. Outside of just you'd have to play the 1 or the 2 seed, there's actually added benefit to getting to 6, because then you're done. You can just wait. Because if you're in 7th, even, you're not guaranteed a playoff spot at 7.
and the
You
thing
now
is,
have to at least go win a game, at least one, to be able to get in,
yeah, and
possibly two.
if you're 6, 5, 4, or 3, you know who your matchup's going to be, so you
Yep.
can take the extra time to prepare.
Yep.
So I think it's interesting. It's a good twist. We'll see how it rolls. Also, want to address the Eastern Conference. Eastern Conference is a much different animal.
Yeah.
There's only 3 teams that have a chance in the Eastern Conference to be the number 1 seed. That's going to be the Nets, who are right now sitting at number 1. The 76ers are half a game back, and the Bucks are 3 games back. So right now you're looking at those 3 teams all with at least 30 wins.
Mm-hmm.
When you look below, you see the Hornets at 4. Haven't been able to say that in Lord knows when. Heat at 5, Knicks at 6, Hawks at 7th, Celtics at 8, Pacers at 9, Bulls at 10. So when you look at those, from the Hornets down to the Bulls, you're talking about 4.5 games separating you from 4th to 10th place in the East. And if we go back a little bit, just want to toot my own horn for a little second here. Rob asked me in the preseason what I think for the Hornets. And I told him I think they could be a 35 to 40 win team. And, honestly, I don't know why I said that, but that's what I thought. Right now they sit at 24 wins. So they can actually get to that 35 that I said pretty easily if they can, win some more games here coming up. But what I think a lot of people didn't
How
realize,
many more? Look, how many more, man? By 11.
well, they only need, if they get 10 more wins, they're at 34. Right? They get to 34, I'm happy. They can win 10 more games. Good. If you want to, fluff your feathers and say, that's not quite 35, it's close enough. So LaMelo Ball was a revelation for this team. He's injured right now. They talk about him a lot here in the city. He's very well loved. He's very impressive. The stats don't always show, but Gordon Hayward has been a big part of their success as well. Rozier has played a big role for them here. A lot of the other young players as well. Devontae Graham, Malik Monk's back. He's playing well for them. So they have a lot of young pieces that are long, athletic, and hungry. So even though they're missing LaMelo Ball, who obviously would make them a better team, they can still, make a strong run. If they can hold on to that 4th seed, which is going to be hard because Miami's starting to come on. Oladipo looks good with them. Not asked to do as much, not asked to be a 1 or 2, just go out there and play his game. He looks good. It's going to be hard to stay ahead of them, but if the Hornets can, they could put themselves in a position to have a home playoff game. Now that's crazy.
Yep.
We're talking about the same Hornets team that most people thought would win 20, 25 games this year. They're already at 24. So, it just goes to show, man, sometimes you have to kind of look at what's there, what's coming, and the changes that are being made versus just, last year they weren't good. They only added these 2 guys. They're not going to be enough to make them better. A couple of key additions make your team better.
Yep. Doesn't take much, man.
Especially in the East right now.
Yeah, so man, we are kind of running down on time here, so I did want to get your thoughts real quick, and also if anybody wants to pop into the chat and let us know their thoughts as well on the NFL approving this 17th game.
Well, I'll simply say that's the most obvious thing ever. And any player who's mad, it was coming. You're making so much more money now. Did you not think the NFL was going to find a way to get some more bread in there? And they're eliminating a preseason game for you. So you only have a 3-game preseason. Let's be real. It was going to happen. The players union approved it. The owners approved it. It was going to happen. I think we talked about last year how it was inevitable. There's no surprise at all with me. There's no shock. The only curiosity about it for me is how they're figuring out that 17th game every year. That's the only curiosity for me, and what I've read, that there's a formula that they use. But that's the only thing for me. It's the biggest no surprise in sports.
So I can actually shed a little light on the formula for you. So what it looks like they did is, every year you play at least one team from the other conference. So what they did is they kind of looked at, I guess, what's coming up, and they decided which division your division was going to face off against for that 17th game. So for like the NFC West this year, that was the AFC North. And then what they did was the exact same thing they do with the interdivisional stuff, which is you play the team to finish in the same place at the division rankings as you did last year. So that's why, like, we're playing Cincinnati because we finished in the same place in our division last that Cincinnati finished in theirs. And then same thing with y'all. You're playing against the Jets, who finished last in a division. You finished last in yours. So that's why you're playing the Jets this year. So that's the formula.
Definitely last.
And for those who watched last week, I'm just going to say that formula is cattywampus.
And I'm just going to say someone involved with that has had some dealings with haberdashery.
Which, by the way, for those of you who watched last week, does not mean that you make hats.
It does not.
Just an FYI.
It does not.
And if you didn't watch last week, just go back and watch the show. We can't explain it to you. Just go back and watch.
It would be much more fun if you did anyway. So just go watch it. Just go watch it.
Yeah, just go watch it. Just go watch it. Yeah, I will also say this, though. In terms of the 17th game, I'm not really a fan. And here's why I'm not a fan. I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh, what do you mean it's more football? Hey, I love more football. I have no problem with more football. That's not my issue. My issue is it's pretty much the exact same as college football saying we're going to go to 4 teams instead of just 6, right? It's an issue of the number. So 17 means I now have an uneven number of home and away games. So in any given year, I either have the advantage of getting to play 9 home games or the disadvantage of having to go on the road 9 times.
Hmm.
And
You know,
half the teams in the league are going to have the advantage, and half the teams are going to have the disadvantage. Just make it 18 and call it a freaking day so we can keep it 9-9.
funny story. I was reading an article that was saying what the NFL's plan is to get those bonus games. You know where,
Mm-hmm.
and that would keep the schedule balanced for everyone. I don't know if they'll be able to do it this year, because the way everything is. But they want the extra game in Europe. So basically, they're trying to have a game in Europe every week, and have it be that bonus game, or some game, so that everyone keeps the 8-8.
Yeah. You know, the NFL, if they try to get to the point that they actually have a weekly overseas game, you're already struggling to even figure out people's buys and getting them scheduled with this Thursday night stuff. And then you got people like playing Monday and then having short weeks. And then later in the season, you got people playing on Saturdays. And now you're going to throw into the mix of having people travel overseas too.
They should just travel for the Thursday night games. That sells everything.
Yeah, that just travel for the Thursday games, and then you
Yep.
get your buy
After you
after
play the
that.
Thursday night, yeah.
Yeah. But personally, man, I still feel like, you know what? Let's just make it 18, throw 2 bye weeks in there, have 1 preseason game, get it over with. We're done. That's it.
Well, they don't want to do 2 bye weeks, man. Yeah. Heaven forbid they do 2 bye weeks. It's like they're doing everything they can to make sure that there's 1 bye week.
You know what? I totally understand though. I mean, it's not really like the NFL preaches player safety or anything like that. So why would they possibly want to give the players an extra week off? I mean, it's not like player safety is ever an issue in the NFL. They never talk about player safety, right?
Never.
Yeah.
Never.
Not
Not
clearly
once
not a
have they
big deal to
ever.
them.
Yeah, it's not like they've been sued about player safety, or people donated their brains and so all this problems with their brains after playing football and passing away. Nothing like that's ever happened.
Yeah. Skullduggery, man. Skullduggery.
More pomp and circumstance. That's all it is.
Oh man. Well, man, seems like it's been like 10 minutes, but it's actually been over an hour. So always, man, great show. Appreciate everybody who tuned in tonight. Even those of you who joined in a little bit late, still appreciate you tuning in. You can catch the replay and see the beginning of the show as well. If you missed something from last week, go ahead and catch up on that. If you missed something from the week before that, go catch up on that one too. They're all available for you right on YouTube by going to playcollegesportstalk.com.
Cheap pop.
And if you have not already done so, make sure you click that little subscribe button down in the corner, and make sure you get those notifications so you'll know when we go live.
Absolutely. And also, man, I can't say this enough. Thanks, Roy. We're going to miss you, buddy. Got it on for you.
Do you need a minute, man? You okay?
I'm good.
You need to turn your camera off. Go, wipe your eyes.
I can do that after the show.
Yeah. Just make sure that whatever you do, you don't send any private message to Michael Rappaport about anything you don't want publicly known.
Text messages, anything.
He should go from calling himself the rap sheet to the snitch sheet. But man, with that, Cool and Box reminding y'all that as the clock runs down,
heroes arise,
and stats will lie.
But sometimes, wow,
nothing is for show.
There is no doubt.
Until the clock runs out,
it's Him and I.
The play callers.
Yay, yay.
Y'all better know that.
Dang, Roy.
ATL to Charlotte, North Carolina. Hey, Rob, go ahead and sneak your last comment before we end.
Rob says, remember, he probably fell asleep after the Gamecocks man comment.
Oh, yeah. All right. Good night, Rob. Have a good night's sleep. night, Ron Brady.
Go with the little G.
Hey man, it's hard work when you be rooting for like 12 teams, man. Let's take it out of you. You know what I'm saying? It's hard work, bro. Hard work.
What? Say what?
Say what? See,
I have no clue.
Man.
That's too much.
What are you talking about, man? What are you answering?
I'm saying I have no clue. That's too much out of them teams. That's too much to root for, man.
Okay. Yeah,
too much. I can barely do one.
Well, y'all come back next week, especially if you have 12 teams, and post questions in the comments asking about all 12 of your teams. We'll talk about them.
Maybe.
All right. I'll let y'all next week, man.
We will acknowledge your comments, though. We did.
Yes. Always.